Good evening and welcome to the Channel Studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. US President Joe Biden has said the conviction of a former police officer in the killing of George Floyd can be a giant step forward in the march toward justice in America.
It was a murder in the full light of day.
However, he also said Americans can't look away thinking our work is done. There were celebrations on the streets after the verdict was read out.
We, the jury, in the above entitled matter as to count 1.
A 12-member jury found Derek Chauvin guilty of all charges against him, second and third degree murder and manslaughter. The former police officer was quickly led away from the courtroom in handcuffs. He will be sentenced in around 2 months and could receive a punishment of 40 years in prison. Meanwhile, hundreds of protesters took to the streets of Ohio after a police officer fatally shot a black teenage girl. Columbus police produced body cam footage which appears to show the girl attacking others with a knife before being shot. An inquiry is underway, with officials urging local residents to remain calm. The European Super League founder has said that the breakaway tournament can no longer go ahead.
I remain convinced of the beauty of that project.
Andrea Agnelli made the announcement hours after all 6 English teams pulled out. There were protests at Chelsea's game yesterday and widespread condemnation of the move across the board. The dramatic collapse of the multi-billion-dollar league comes less than 48 hours after it was first launched.
Mr. Speaker, I welcome the decision taken by the 6 English football teams not to join the European Super League. The announcement was the right result for football fans, for clubs and for communities across the country. One of the most worrying features about the European Super League proposals is that they would have taken clubs that take their names from great famous British towns and cities, English towns and cities, and turned them just into global brands with no relation to the fans, to the communities that gave them life and that give them the most love and support.
The European Union has clinched a deal on a landmark climate change law that sets new, tougher greenhouse gas emission targets.
It is indeed a historic moment.
Under a new law agreed between member states and the EU Parliament, the bloc will cut carbon emissions by at least 55% by 2030 compared to 1990 levels. The deal comes ahead of a virtual summit of world leaders later this week, where the US is expected to announce its own climate targets for 2030. Opposition politicians in Chad have rejected the army's appointment of President Idriss Déby's son to take over in the wake of his death. General Mahamat Idriss Déby is set to occupy the functions of the president and also serve as head of the armed forces. Meanwhile, traffic was backed up in the streets of Chad's capital city as people are fleeing at the prospect of violence after the president's death. The head of Egypt's railways has been sacked following the latest deadly crash on the network. Ashraf Raslan is among 10 top executives to be dismissed or reshuffled after the second major train derailment in less than a month. At least 23 people were killed and 98 others injured in the crash in the delta city of Touk, north of the Egyptian capital, Cairo. Britain's Queen Elizabeth, the world's oldest monarch, has turned 95. There will be no public celebrations as the monarch continues to observe 2 weeks of mourning after the death of her husband, the Duke of Edinburgh, and no gun salutes. Some of the Queen's family are thought to be with her at Windsor on her birthday. And finally, a Swiss robotics company is seeing rising interest in its latest invention, a fully automated bartender. Barney can mix 16 different spirits and 8 different sodas for customers who place their orders via their mobile phones, as well as offering beer and Prosecco. The robot, who can disinfect his own robotic arm, tells them their drink is ready via a large video display above the bar. All the versions can be loaded up with conversations, so Barney can not only mix drinks, but also make jokes. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel Studios in Lagos.